What's up, everyone? Welcome to The Top of the Key, the latest sports podcast that'll give you all the sports info and analysis that you need. I'm your host. My name is Sai Balabhadra Petruni, a.k.a. The Beard 2.0. I'm the second coming of James Harden. Remember that, please. I can't shoot, but I'm an incredible rebounder. I'll average like 20 boards a game. So basically, obviously, this is a tough time for us to be living in. Society is pretty much taking a punch in the face right now with this whole coronavirus stuff. And worst of all, sports are canceled for the foreseeable future. We haven't had sports in 2 months, and it has really just been excruciating for myself and other sports fans. This is a really tough time we're living in, and we're just looking forward to as much sports as we can whenever the leagues will decide to come back. So I decided that starting this podcast would be a fun thing to do so we can talk about some of the things going on in the sports world and stuff that we can look forward to next year when the leagues start playing again. So if you like what you see, please like and subscribe. Like the video and subscribe to my channel. And if you don't like what you see, leave me a comment. I love criticism. I actually love when people absolutely shit on what I'm doing. It's so much fun to read hate messages. And that was actually one of the main reasons I started this whole thing, was to see all the hatred that people have for me. And just give myself some satisfaction. So, but really though, please give me some feedback. This is very new for me. I'm trying this out for the first time. So, let me know what you think. Compliments are encouraged. Criticism is also encouraged, and I'll hope to take your feedback into consideration when I continue this. And if it sucks, it sucks. I'll stop doing this and I'll try my hand at something else. But here we go. I thought we'd start off by talking about the Jordan documentary. Episodes 7 and 8 came out last week. Lots of fun. So the biggest thing in the Jordan doc last week was the whole James Jordan murder and how the murder affected Michael Jordan. So obviously, at the end of the 93 finals, Jordan was exhausted. He was probably going to quit anyway because he was so tired. But the death of James Jordan kind of just... After that, he knew he had to stop and do something else. Basketball was tiring him out, and I think the biggest takeaway from that whole story, and pretty much from the entire 2 episodes, was just the impact that the media had on Jordan. The media was a huge villain. Like, the media sucked. You guys sucked back then. You guys were terrible. First of all, like, so much of the stuff that they reported wasn't even news. It was total, complete nonsense, complete bullshit. So it starts off. They're talking. There's so much media speculation after the murder, talking about how Jordan's gambling debts were connected to the murder. It was complete nonsense. They had nothing to report, and they just you realize in '93 the media was giving Jordan so much shit about the gambling that was a big part of the reason why he wanted to quit in the first place, because he couldn't take it anymore. He couldn't take the constant questions of, do you have a gambling problem? Do you have a gambling problem? Of course he had a gambling problem, but that had nothing to do with it. I know he said he didn't have a problem. It was more of a hobby. Like, it was a problem. He was gambling way too much, but he had the money to do it because he was winning so much. He was so successful. But to imply that his gambling had something to do with his father's death, not only absurd, but unbelievably cruel on the part of the media. And it's part of the reason why he retired. He was exhausted from the season and exhausted of the media. He was tired of being on top. He had no space to just... He had to stay confined to where he was all the time because he couldn't go outside. because he'd just get harassed. And that was part of the reason why he decided to play baseball. The media also said that his retirement was related to his gambling too, which David Stern immediately shut down as well. Also complete bullshit. The media is the real villain here. People are always talking about how Jordan was mean to his teammates, all of this other stuff, like all his gambling. You're just attacking him because he's on top. He was one of the most famous people in the world. He was so unbelievably powerful and famous in the 90s. He was an icon. He was on the top. There was literally nothing wrong he was doing, nothing wrong he could do, and the media was just trying to shoot him down from his pedestal. It was bullshit. You guys are assholes. The media still does it to this day. They still just ask the worst questions. There's a reason athletes in the media never have a good relationship. It's always the media's fault. They don't know when to stop. Anyways, with that, he moves on to play baseball. And I did actually want to talk about his baseball career a little bit, because there's a chance Jordan could have been a baseball player. For real. Like an actual professional baseball player in the major leagues. I know he started out in the minor leagues for the Barons, for the Birmingham Barons. And so obviously, because of his stardom, because he's a basketball player, because he's won 3 straight championships with the Bulls, he obviously gets a shot in the minor leagues in baseball. Nobody else would have that opportunity. If anybody else was like, I want to quit what I'm doing and start playing baseball, no team would sign you. If I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna quit school and just join a minor league baseball team, they'll just let me on. It wouldn't happen. Even other athletes, if Scottie Pippen wanted to do the same thing, probably wouldn't have happened. If guys like Patrick Ewing, other NBA stars, Reggie Miller, if guys like that wanted to play in the MLB, they wouldn't have been given a shot. The fact that he was Michael Jordan, and he would probably make your baseball team so much money by just being there, was the only reason why he was given a chance. It's unbelievable. It's really quite comical, to be honest. But could Jordan have played in the major leagues? It's a good question. I mean, he struggled during that season, but he did put up a 202. He did put up a 202 batting average, which for a first year, it's pretty remarkable. He drove in 51 runs, and he had 3 home runs. So for a first year player, he did play pretty well. For a guy who didn't play baseball since high school, coming back and playing at the age of 31 is quite absurd. Anyway, I think his baseball career got cut short by the MLB strike in 1994. In 94. The MLB strike in 94. They wanted Jordan to cross the picket line and play in some exhibition games. He wouldn't do that. He's not going to cross the players' union. He doesn't want to be that guy. He doesn't want to get involved with that whole situation. Plus, if there's a strike, his baseball game can't develop, and he's doing nothing. Jordan doesn't want to be doing nothing. He wants to develop his game. He wants to get better, and he wants to play in the major leagues. He wasn't given that opportunity, so he says, "Fuck it, let's go back to basketball." So, I mean, but that's the big question: could he have played? Could he have played in the major leagues? So his manager at the time, Terry Francona, who then went on later to win a World Series with the Boston Red Sox. Thank you, Terry. As a huge Red Sox fan, that 2004 championship is huge, especially that Yankees series. Unbelievably amazing. So thank you to Terry Francona for his help with that. But But Francona basically said that Jordan, if he kept going, he had a shot. I mean, this guy was playing unbelievably well towards the latter half. Like he was seriously getting better and better. And if he wanted to, it's his work ethic, man. Like this guy works harder than anyone else. He wants to be the best so bad that nothing else matters to him. Winning is the only thing. So I personally think he could have made it. You know, a lot of people say, you know, it's just bullshit. It's just the media trying to. He did it for publicity. He's disrespecting baseball. I don't think he was disrespecting baseball. I think that's a load of bullshit. His father wanted him to play baseball. He loved baseball growing up as a kid. So I don't see what's wrong with him playing baseball. I think it's completely a normal thing for him to do. So that's where I'm coming from. But I think he definitely could have played in the major leagues. But while this all is going on, the Bulls are still a great team. The Bulls without Michael Jordan are still a great team in 1994. When Scottie Pippen is the guy. Scottie Pippen is the pretty much the leader of the team and the number one option on that team. And he leads them to 55 wins. Incredible. It shows you how great of a team this was. And Michael Jordan was just an added bonus. Like, this team was never going to lose. It's absurd to say this team was never going to lose. But Scottie Pippen is the leader of the team. They get to the Eastern Conference Finals. They're 55-win teams. Still incredible. They play the Knicks. The Knicks grab the first two games. It's Game 3. Score is tied with 1.8 seconds left. And what do you know? Phil Jackson draws up a play for Scottie Pippen. No. Phil Jackson draws up a play for the new kid on the block, Tony Kukoc. Scottie doesn't take kindly to this. He wants Scottie Pippen to inbound the ball and Kukoc to take the last shot. And Scottie Pippen doesn't like this. He says he's not going in. He quits on the team. Boom. This is the biggest story. Scottie definitely felt like he was being slighted. He was the guy for the entire year. He was the best player on the team. Now that MJ was gone, it was his team. It was Scottie Pippen's team. And the nerve of Phil Jackson to say that Tony Kukoc is going to take the last shot. See, that didn't sit kindly with Scottie. He didn't like that. So, I mean, it's an interesting conversation because on one hand, Tony Kukoc is the better shooter. Scottie Pippen is the best passer on that team. So, and plus they ran these types of plays throughout the regular season. But when it was the season on the line, the time where it mattered most, Scottie Pippen wanted that shot. Phil Jackson just said, screw it, let's have Kukoc take the shot, and Scottie can sit. Locker room. Kukoc hits the shot, first of all. So that makes Scottie look even worse. They go to the locker room. Bill Cartwright, the team center, starts crying. Says Scottie quit on the team. Steve Kerr felt that Scottie quit on the team as well. Scottie starts crying, apologizes. Everything's fine. Scottie plays incredibly well in the series, but they lose in 7. But still, it tarnishes his legacy. That's always something people are going to hold against Scottie Pippen. But should they? Look, what if Kukoc hadn't hit the shot? What would the media have been saying then? They would have. They absolutely would have been saying Scottie Pippen should have taken the last shot. What is Phil Jackson thinking? He's out of his mind. Scottie Pippen's the best player on the team. Should take the last shot. So it's pretty much solely because Kukoc hit that shot. which is absurd. Because, I mean, in my opinion, I think Pippen should have taken that shot, no matter what. He might be the best passer on the team. He might not be the best shooter. But come on. He is your best player. I don't care what the situation is. You want your best player to take the last shot when it matters the most. And that, I think it goes into a big conversation topic of how does this documentary portray Scottie Pippen? I was watching First Take the other day, and Stephen A. Smith was talking about how Scottie Pippen's portrayed really badly with this incident with 1.8 seconds, and then the contract negotiations in '98 where he pushed off his surgery because he didn't want it to fuck up his summer, and all of that. And I think I like to see it in a different perspective, in a different light. It might show that Scottie Pippen, it might portray him badly. I don't think he should have quit on his team, but I also don't think Phil Jackson should have drawn up that play for Tony Kukoc. You know, I think it was wrong for Scottie to quit on his team. But at the end of the day, I think he wasn't treated like the player he was. He was the number 2 option on a 6-time championship winning Bulls team. He was one of the best players in the world. He finished 3rd in the MVP race that year, by the way. He was probably a top 5 player in the 90s. And he was paid outside of the top 100 in salaries. The Bulls never took care of him. They took care of Jordan. Of course, they'll take care of Jordan. They paid him about $2-3 million a year, even when he was playing baseball. Jerry Reinsdorf was saying they wanted to take care of their guy, even when he was retired. But they didn't take care of Scottie Pippen. They didn't want to take care of Scottie Pippen because they didn't need to. They didn't feel like they needed to, which is absurd. He signed a 7-year deal worth about maybe $14 million, and he's one of the best players in the world. It's honestly absurd. And so if I'm in Scottie Pippen's situation where I feel like the team doesn't care about me that much and they keep slighting me, I would probably have done some of the same things. I don't think I would have quit on the team. I think Scottie knows that, even though he said he probably would have done the same thing again. I think Scottie knows that it was the wrong thing to do, and he said that. But in that situation, at that mindset, when you keep going through this and you reach a boiling point where it's like, you don't want to deal with it anymore. And I think that came with the contract negotiations later on. He wasn't being taken care of by the Bulls franchise. Jerry Krause and Jerry Reinsdorf did not care. And so he said he didn't want to play for them anymore. I think a lot of players would have done the same thing. You win 5 championships up to that point. You're a big part of... I don't think they would have won 5 championships without Scottie Pippen. The guy was incredible. He was an unbelievable player. He's the best number 2 option of all time. So, yeah, I think they disrespected Scottie Pippen, and I think I probably would have done the same thing in his situation. I think he was wrong to quit on the team, but at the end of the day, I think the Bulls did not treat Scottie Pippen the way he should have been treated. So they lose in Game 7. Then the 95 season comes around. They're struggling. They need help. They're not playing as well as they used to be. Everyone thinks this is the end of the Bulls franchise. But wait. MLB strike comes in. Jordan says, I'm back. Jordan wants to come back to play basketball. He wears number 45. Because it was his father wasn't there, and he didn't want he didn't want to wear 23 when his father wasn't there. So he wears 45, which was his first number in high school. But then in the 95 series against Orlando, in the semifinals, Eastern Conference semifinals, he's wearing 45. They lose, I believe, one of the guys in the Magic says 45 is in 23. I remember distinctly in the documentary, Horace Grant's like, you can't say that. Come on, man. He's only going to fuel a fire under his ass. So Jordan comes in the next game, wears 23. He wears 23, and he puts on a show. He has a great game. They win that game. They end up losing the series, though. Jordan is not in shape for basketball. He came in pretty much towards the end of that season, so he just kind of came and he was like, obviously because he's Michael Jordan, they're just going to be like, all right, come back. He comes back and he's obviously not the same at this point, but he'll get there. You know, that loss definitely fueled him a lot, and he's ready for 96. So, obviously, with the different three-peats, there's different characters. There's, in the first three-peat, there's guys like B.J. Armstrong, Horace Grant, Bill Cartwright. And then in the second three-peat, there's guys like Steve Kerr and Pete Myers, Luke Longley. And Jordan basically said in the documentary that these new guys acted like they were part of this Bulls franchise that had so much success. When they weren't a part of those 3 championships that they won earlier, but they had that chip on their shoulder like they were. And Jordan, being Jordan, needed to get the best out of these guys so that they could keep winning again. So, obviously, he's going to be an asshole to them. That's like, so this is a big part of this documentary of where Jordan is just a jerk and an asshole to his teammates. Many of his teammates called him, said they were afraid of him even. So, his teammates don't really like him. They're afraid of him. When they're on the court practicing, Jordan's yelling at him, screaming at him. He even punches Steve Kerr in the face. Back in that one practice, Jordan's cussing out his teammates. He's belittling little Steve Kerr, making fun of him. Steve Kerr at a certain point can't take this anymore. He decides to fight back. He shoves Jordan. I believe he shoves Jordan. Not very happy that Jordan is picking on him. Jordan punches him in the face, and Phil Jackson kicks him out of practice. So this is an ultra Jordan story. This is classic Jordan. And he eventually apologizes for it later, because it wasn't the right thing to do, obviously. But Steve Kerr gained Jordan's respect that day because he was willing to fight back for himself. And he had that self-respect. Jordan wanted that out of all of his teammates. Jordan wanted that mentality where if someone pushes you down, you come back up and you fight. Because that's how it is in the NBA. That's how it is in the playoffs. In the intensity of the moments. That's what Jordan went through against the bad boy Pistons teams. When those guys would have the Jordan rule and they would beat the shit out of Jordan during those games and hit him and do whatever they needed to do to win. And so Jordan was of that mentality that if you can get through that then you can get through anything. So he wanted to toughen up his teammates. And I think one of the biggest parts of the documentary this past Sunday was this one quote that Jordan gave where he said, "You can ask all of my teammates, the one thing about Michael Jordan was he never asked me to do anything that he wouldn't fucking do." So, I mean, that tells you all you need to know. This guy wanted to win at all costs. It was the most important thing, and if you didn't want to win, then he didn't want you on his team. And guess what? They won 3 in a row again. That's why he's the GOAT. So, obviously, Jordan, very, very pissed that he lost in 95 to the Magic. He wants to come back in 96, prove himself, and he wants to win. So, they go up against the Seattle Supersonics in the 96 finals. And one of the biggest stories there was, I think it was the night before, a couple nights before the finals began. Michael Jordan's out at dinner, and the Supersonics head coach, George Karl, is at dinner. And he sees Jordan, and he just walks by him. Doesn't say a word. Jordan does not like this. Jordan doesn't like this at all. And this is where we start getting into the LeBradford Smith effect. This is probably going to be my favorite segment on this show right now. The LeBradford Smith effect. Michael Jordan, when you win as much as Michael Jordan did, it's sometimes difficult to find new ways of motivating yourself and new reasons to motivate yourself. When you've won four championships, what is a fifth? You know what I mean? So, LeBradford Smith, back in, I believe it was 93, LeBradford Smith is on the Washington Bullets, and they're playing against the Bulls. And LeBradford Smith, not a great player, really has done nothing in his career. I don't think he even played in the NBA after that season. So in 93, LeBradford Smith has the game of his life. He puts up 37 on Jordan, and Jordan's like, Jordan, according to Jordan at the time, Jordan said, Smith comes up to him at the end of the game and says, "Nice game, Mike." And that's all he needed. That's all he needed. Jordan comes the next game and he's like, I'm going to put up whatever he scored in that last game in the first half. So they play in the next game. Jordan puts up 36 in the first half. Ends up with 45 or something like that. Absurd. Absolutely absurd. I don't think LeBradford Smith played a good game ever again in his life. Jordan destroyed his career. He didn't even destroy him on the court. He destroyed his manhood. He sacrificed him out there. So this is what happens if you cross Jordan, if you try to make him look bad and try to beat him down, it's not going to end up well for you. If you say something in the media, if you trash talk him in any possible way, Jordan's going to have his way with you. Same thing happened with B.J. Armstrong. B.J. Armstrong was on one of those Bulls teams. He was on the Bulls during their first three-peat. And then he went to the Hornets. This was in the 98 semis. So this was after the 96 finals. This was in the 98 semis, Eastern Conference semifinals. When B.J. Armstrong's on the Hornets, the Bulls take game one. But B.J. Armstrong says, I've been on the Bulls before. I know how to beat Jordan. So they go out. B.J. Armstrong plays the game of his life. An incredible game. And B.J. Armstrong ends up hitting the game-winning shot to tie the series. He's high-fiving. He's celebrating hard, and that's all Jordan needs. That's all Jordan needs is motivation to go in and just take away B.J. Armstrong's dignity. Bulls end up sweeping the next 3 games. Series over. By the way, the LeBradford Smith, nice game, Mike, completely fake. Jordan made it up to motivate himself. This tells you the extremes this guy goes to just get in guys' heads. He wants to win more than anything else. That's all that matters to him. He doesn't care about anything else. And so when George Karl stiffed Michael Jordan before the 96 finals, he should have known that disaster was about to be headed for him. So obviously, that didn't end well for them. The Bulls end up winning their 4th ring. But one of the interesting things that I wanted to talk about here was in the 96 finals with Gary Payton. So the Bulls go up 3-0 in the finals. This is supposed to be one of the biggest mismatches in NBA Finals history. This Bulls team was the 72-win Bulls team, which was only eclipsed by the 73-win Warriors team that didn't win the NBA Finals against the Cavs. But the 72-win Bulls team is likely the greatest team ever assembled. So the Bulls go up 3-0, and George Karl doesn't want Gary Payton guarding Michael Jordan. Gary Payton, at the time, is the best defensive guard in the league. He was known for his defense, maybe one of the best defensive guards of all time. So he doesn't have Gary Payton guard Michael Jordan in the first 3 games because he doesn't want to wear Gary Payton out. Gary Payton says, screw this. I'm going to guard Michael Jordan game 4. Because we have to do something. They had to do something to get some momentum back on their side. Payton guards Jordan game 4. They win the game. Payton guards Jordan game 5. They win the game. Game 6, it's Father's Day. Jordan's literally playing to win a championship for his father, dedicating the season to his father. You're not going to win that game. You're not going to win that game. It was inevitable. The Bulls were always going to win that series. But a big question that I had was, what if Gary Payton had guarded Michael Jordan the entire series? What if he had started guarding him game 1? Would the result have been any different? Well, I think it would have been more of a series from the start. But no, I don't think the result would have been different. Because George Karl had a point. Guarding Michael Jordan will wear you out. If he had started game 1, he would have been worn out by game 4, game 5, game 6. And even if they had stolen a couple games at the start, win maybe game 1, game 3, a couple games here and there, even if they had won a third game, Michael Jordan is still Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan's going to show up. I think Gary Payton would have been worn out. And granted, even guarding him game 4 and game 5, it wasn't like Payton was shutting down Michael Jordan. You can't shut down Michael Jordan. He was still scoring like 26, 27 points, something along those lines. And it wasn't like they could stop him, but they were slowing him down a little bit. And if you're Gary Payton, that's an incredible accomplishment. If you can slow down Michael Jordan, job well done. You've done something that other people haven't been able to do. So all the respect to Gary Payton, all the respect in the world to Gary Payton. Unbelievable guard, unbelievable player, terrific trash talker. If I had his trash talk skills, boy, do I wish I had his trash talk skills. I would be sweeping everyone on the court. Trust me, I would. But I think the Bulls still would have won in 6 or 7 games, maybe 7 games if the defense really caught up to them. I mean, when you're up 3-0, you also you slow down a little bit. You don't push as hard. So, but game 6, Father's Day, no chance you're going to beat Jordan in that game. One of the craziest things in the entire documentary was Jordan laughing Payton off. I thought that was hilarious. It was the ultimate testament to, yes, the glove is great. I have a lot of respect for the glove. I don't have a problem with the glove. But Gary Payton is nowhere close to Michael Jordan's level. It's not even close. It's not a fair comparison. He might be one of the greatest defensive guards of all time. But Michael Jordan is still Michael Jordan. And you can't compare the two. So, the episodes conclude with Jordan winning on Father's Day. They obviously show the powerful picture of Jordan sobbing on the floor in the locker room. Honestly, it made me almost cry. I'm not a crier, but it made me almost cry because that was such a big moment. He had been suffering for years after his father's death, and to put his heart and soul into the game, come back after almost 1.5 to 2 years out of the game, and win a championship again. It's incredible. This guy's incredible. So, yeah, basically, I thought episodes 7 and 8 this past weekend were the most emotional of the episodes, most heartwarming. You just see the story arc of how his father's death really influenced Michael and how it led the Bulls to even more success. Those lucky sons of bitches. Yeah, so that's what I got on the Jordan doc. Please let me know what you think. Some more topics that you might want me to talk about relating to Michael Jordan and the Bulls franchise. Some different issues that they touched on that I missed that you might want me to talk about. Please let me know. But now I really want to get into to sports today. What's going on? Last week they released the schedule for the 2020 NFL season. So I wanted to take some time to talk about my predictions, who I think is going to make the playoffs from each conference, and just go through each of the divisions. So I wanted to start off with the AFC. I think in the AFC West, the Chiefs are going to be the 1 seed. The Chiefs are still the best team in the NFL, I think. Best team definitely in the AFC. Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in this league. They've still got tremendous talent on offense. And their defense, they showed in the playoffs last year that the defense can step up and at least hold teams to fewer points than the offense, which is what you need to do. And in the draft, they definitely helped their offense by going out and drafting the best running back in the league. Running back in the draft, sorry. They drafted Clyde Edwards-Helaire with the 32nd pick. And this just helps their offense even more. It adds an element to the running game with Damian Williams. Obviously, the passing game is still going to be great. But when you look at the AFC, it's going to be between the Chiefs and the Ravens. And I think the Chiefs are just a better team at this point, and I think they're going to be better in the playoffs. So they boosted their offense even more by adding another element to their running game. I think in the AFC West, if you're looking at it, there's not much competition to the Chiefs. I think the Broncos are going to be a lot better this year. I think with they're really bought into the idea that Drew Lock is their future. He's going to be their franchise quarterback. When you have Von Miller and Bradley Chubb healthy, both of them ready to go, that defense is going to be scary. It's going to be really scary. Drew Lock's going to get Jerry Jeudy, who they drafted as help. So it all comes down to, will Drew Lock deliver? You know, Broncos fans are really hoping he can. And if he can deliver, they've got the pieces around him with Jerry Jeudy, Melvin Gordon. So the offense is looking pretty decent, and the defense is going to be great. So this team is going to go as far as Drew Lock takes them. He looked good in the end of the season last year when he replaced Joe Flacco. So I think this team will compete. I think they'll compete for a wild card spot. Right now, I think I have them as my 7 seed. But that could change. Obviously, the season isn't even close to start yet. So we don't know if it will either. So we'll see what happens. Then the Raiders and the Chargers, I kind of group them together. They're kind of those 6, 7, 8 win type of teams that won't be in the playoffs. The Raiders are interesting. Moving to Las Vegas this year, how will that impact the players? I think it's not going to be as bad as I thought initially. Initially, moving to Las Vegas could be distracting for the players. You know, it might be tough for them to concentrate with all the casinos and gambling going on. It's not the perfect place where you want to be professional and get to work. So I always thought that could be a problem, but with the coronavirus, obviously casinos are closed. It's tough to go out in public with a lot of people, so who knows? We might not even be playing in home stadiums for all we know. So we'll see what happens. I think it's very interesting that they acquired Marcus Mariota. They might use him because I don't know how they're feeling about Derek Carr at the moment. I don't think the Raiders' problems are because of Derek Carr. I think he can play. They might add Mariota in some option run type packages that could be interesting to watch. But overall, I think this team isn't ready yet to, especially in a division with the Chiefs and a rising Broncos defense. I don't think that Raiders offense can hang with the Broncos defense or outscore the Chiefs. So it's going to be really tough. Chargers defense is pretty solid as well. So it's going to be tough for the Raiders. Chargers, on the other hand, they draft Justin Herbert. I don't think Justin Herbert's going to start. Tyrod Taylor's probably going to start. I don't think Tyrod Taylor is the answer. They have a good defense. I don't think Tyrod Taylor can get them over the hump. So unless Justin Herbert starts playing and they start developing him, I don't think this team's going to have a whole lot of success this year. Maybe next year once Herbert becomes the guy. But I don't see it. I don't envision a Tyrod Taylor-led Chargers team having success in a division where they have the Chiefs, where they have the Broncos. I don't see it happening. Next, I wanted to go to the AFC North. I think the Ravens are going to grab the 2 seed. I think they still have the MVP. They still have Lamar Jackson. John Harbaugh is still an unbelievable coach. They duped defenses last year with the way they ran their offense. The running game was incredible. I think it's still going to be great with Lamar Jackson, Mark Ingram. They have a great offense. Their defense is solid. They strengthened their defense even more. They traded for Calais Campbell. They drafted Patrick Queen, a linebacker. So they're building their team even more. The problem I have with the Ravens, and the reason why I put them behind the Chiefs in the AFC, is Lamar Jackson's great. I think defenses are going to start figuring out the scheme that the Ravens use with Lamar Jackson. They ran all over the league last year. They were honestly in the regular season probably the best team in the league. But I don't see it happening again. Defenses are going to start figuring things out. And on the other side, I don't see them having that much success in the future, in the playoffs, sorry. Lamar Jackson has struggled in the playoffs. He didn't play well against Tennessee last year. I have trouble believing in a team when they crumble against in the most important time of the year. So, I think it's tough for them to make an impact in the playoffs. They might be a divisional round upset again. But I do think they go to the championship game this year. I think they take one step forward, but I think it's going to be tougher for them this year. I got the Steelers making the wild card. I put them as a 6th seed potentially. I think Roethlisberger's back. That's huge. Last year, under the brilliant coaching of Mike Tomlin, they went 8-8, basically without a quarterback. With Mason Rudolph playing quarterback most of the games. They had Duck Hodges playing a couple games. His name's Duck. How do you think that's going to go? I mean, they had success. They were a playoff fringe team at the end of last year. They played meaningful games in December. They just couldn't get it done in crunch time. But man, with Roethlisberger back, I think the sky's the limit for the Steelers team. I think they could definitely compete with the Ravens. I don't think they'll win the division. I think the Ravens are too good. But I think the Steelers have a shot. They have a manageable schedule. The Steelers play... The AFC North goes up against the AFC South and NFC East. NFC East, obviously, I don't think is the best division. One of the weaker divisions. AFC South, definitely manageable to win some games there. The Texans aren't who they used to be. The Jaguars are going to be terrible. Titans lost some pieces. So they have a manageable schedule. Roethlisberger's back. They have the Bengals in their division. I think things look good for the Pittsburgh Steelers this year. Cleveland Browns. Everyone's high on the Browns this year. I think they made a lot of roster upgrades. They definitely strengthened their offensive line, which was a huge weakness last year, which really hindered their offense, because when you have Odell Beckham Jr. and Jarvis Landry, you should have success, and the offensive line definitely prevented them from having a whole lot of success. They still have a pretty solid defense. They drafted Jedrick Wills. They got Jack Conklin. They'll have protection for Baker this year. And on paper, they should be a playoff team. But for me, I still don't trust Baker Mayfield. This guy hasn't shown me that he has the level of maturity to put his team on his back, study, and win football games. He has shown promise in some games over the last 2 years. But I just have trouble understanding all this hype that people are putting on Baker Mayfield. Everyone's talking about how he's going to be this incredible quarterback when I haven't seen any of it. You have no excuse. I get the offensive line had issues last year. But when you have OBJ and Jarvis Landry and you can't do shit, come on, man. Come on. I'm on the Baker hate train. Come on board. The Bengals are going to be bad. Joe Burrow is a positive thing for the Bengals. I think they finally found their franchise quarterback. I think they were in a rebuild mode with Andy Dalton. Joe Burrow is going to be good, I think. They got him some help with T. Higgins in the second round. There's still too many holes on this team. This is a 2-14 team last year. You can't fix that. You can't fix a team that was actively tanking in 1 year. I think they get a little better. 4 or 5 wins, I'd say. Maybe 6 max. But this is still going to be a pretty bad football team. But drafting Joe Burrow was a huge move that's going to definitely give fans hope for the future. I think give them a few years. They're still trying to build this team and go through a few more drafts, get some young players, build this team. You got a chance in the future. But definitely a solid improvement with Burrow. AFC South, I got the Colts winning. Obviously, this is a battle, 3-way battle with the Colts, Titans, and Texans. Jaguars fans, I'm not even really gonna talk about you guys. You guys the team's actively tanking, and Gardner Minshew isn't good enough to fix those problems. So they're gonna look bad. They're a 1-2 win team next year. Colts. The big thing with the Colts is Phillip Rivers is a massive upgrade over Jacoby Brissett. It's not even close. This was a good football team last year that was hindered by terrible QB play. Brissett played bad. He's not a starting quarterback in the NFL. Phillip Rivers is a veteran quarterback who's had a lot of experience. He's going to be good. They've got great coaching with Frank Reich, a good GM, Chris Ballard. They've got a great roster, good defense. They drafted Michael Pittman to give Rivers some help. They've had T.Y. Hilton has literally been the only receiver on the Colts for years. So it's nice to see that they've gotten some help. Jonathan Taylor, another running back to add some depth to Marlon Mack. This is going to be a good football team. I think they're going to be really successful. The AFC South is going to be tough with the Titans and Texans, but I think they'll squeeze it out this year. I think they definitely have the best roster in the division, and now they have a quarterback who knows how to play. So I got the Colts winning the division. I got the Titans taking a wild card spot with a 5 seed. I think Derrick Henry is the best running back in the league, and I don't think it's that close. He was like putting together a stretch of like back-to-back 200, close to 200-yard games towards the end of the season. Imagine if he plays like that the whole season. That would be absurd. Derrick Henry, this is my hot take of the day. Hot take of this show. Derrick Henry is going to break the single season rushing record this year. It's going to happen. I'm so high on this pick. I don't know why, but Derrick Henry is going to break the single season rushing record. I think you'd think the Titans would win the division, but at the end of the day, I think they have a good defense, great run game. Ryan Tannehill is overrated. He got way too much praise last year. He played well, don't get me wrong, but if you look at the playoff games they won last year, he threw for like 80 yards. He barely threw. He didn't make mistakes. He didn't really do anything to hurt you. But you can't rely on winning a lot of games without a quarterback. Imagine if you had a better quarterback, you have a shot in that Chiefs game. Imagine if Phillip Rivers is playing quarterback for you. You know, I think their passing game definitely has some issues. Ryan Tannehill is not the answer to fixing those problems. They lost some players. They're going to be good. I think they'll compete for the division with the Colts, but I have the Colts coming out on top. I think the Texans take a step down. I'm going to say this. I think Bill O'Brien is incompetent. I think he's a terrible head coach who makes horrible in-game decisions, and that's why the Texans have lost so many playoff games, like first-round playoff game, wild card games, and divisional games, and why they consistently seem to be getting to the playoffs, but can't get to the championship game. It's like you're not upgrading the roster at all. And now they make Bill O'Brien the GM? Are you high? You're making this guy the GM. And the first thing he does is trades away one of the best receivers in the league. The Texans front office is full of idiots. This is mismanagement at its finest. Deshaun Watson's great, but when you have your front office and coaching that is as egregious as Bill O'Brien is, you're not going to win the division and you're not going to have success. Again, Jaguars tanking. AFC East. I'm excited for this because I'm a Jets fan. I've been a Jets fan through the butt fumble, through the back-to-back AFC championship years, and through the past 6 or 7 years of being at the bottom of the AFC East. And we might finally have some promise. Tom Brady's not playing for the Patriots anymore. He moves to Tampa Bay. We might finally have a chance to win the division. But no. Because the Buffalo Bills are going to win the division. The Buffalo Bills look great. They have one of the best defenses in the league. Now they draft AJ Epinesa, who will help with the pass rush. They've got a strong defense. It's going to be tough. And they play in a division that doesn't have teams that will scare you. Jets are improving. Dolphins are improving. Patriots, you can never count them out. But none of them are scary anymore. The Patriots aren't scary anymore. But this team looks good. Josh Allen, this could be a career year for him. Now he's got Stephon Diggs to help him out. The Bills could be a dark horse in the AFC to make the Super Bowl over the Ravens and the Chiefs. That's my dark horse pick. I've been saying it for a few weeks. The Bills could make the Super Bowl. That's the ceiling I see for this team. I think it could be a big year for Josh Allen. I think it comes down to Josh Allen's play. The team's going to go as far as Allen takes them. The Jets, I had them as a possible wild card team. They're my second team in the AFC. I think they had significant offensive line issues last year. Darnold got sacked like 50 times, and they had no help. So the fact that they won 7 games was honestly quite remarkable. They did beef up their offensive line. They got center Connor McGovern from Denver. They drafted Mekhi Becton, who was a monster, mammoth of a human being, like 380 pounds or something like that. He ran like a 5'1" 40, so I think Darnold has the protection he needs. They got Denzel Mims at wide receiver. I think they still got some work to do on the receiving core. But this is going to be a better football team. Darnold has to prove it this year. He's shown flashes over the past couple of years. I sure hope to God he doesn't get mono again. I don't think he will. But the one knock on them from really contending in this division is the fact they just have a brutal schedule, man. They got to play the NFC West. They got to play the Bills defense twice. They have to play the Patriots defense twice. They've got to play the Chiefs, the Broncos defense, 49ers defense, Seahawks. It's a tough schedule, man. This is a tough schedule. And that's why I would have put them over the top and put them in the playoffs if it weren't for their schedule. I think it's just really tough. Patriots have been a big talking point ever since Tom Brady left. I'm not high on Jarrett Stidham. I'm not on the train that just because they have Belichick, they're going to make the playoffs. I think they'll compete just because they have Belichick. But look, they lost pieces on their defense too. They lost Kyle Van Noy. They lost Jamie Collins. Defense is still good. But Jarrett Stidham is not Tom Brady. They still don't really have receiving weapons for him to throw to. This guy threw 4 passes last year, and one of them was a pick 6. So, I don't believe in Jarrett Stidham. If he proves it, I'll be wrong, obviously. But I just don't see the Patriots winning this division, and I think I see them towards the bottom of the division with the Dolphins. Belichick is still going to be great. Still the best coach in the league. I don't see them winning the division. So Dolphins, Tua probably won't play. That was a gruesome injury last year. That was a gruesome injury. I think Ryan Fitzpatrick will start. And I think that's a great guy for Tua to learn behind. To sit and watch Ryan Fitzpatrick for a year, or at least most of the season. I think that's a great guy, a veteran guy who's played the game for a long time. I'd say top 3 backup quarterback of all time. I'd put him number 2, the second best backup quarterback of all time behind Nick Foles. I think this guy is a great guy to learn behind. They were very active during free agency. Signed a lot of guys to their defense. Signed Byron Jones, Kyle Van Noy. Lots of draft picks. So they've gotten a lot better. I think they're like a 6-7 win team this year. Maybe 8-win team. The problem I have with them is they're still rebuilding. They've still got some holes. You can't fix everything in one year, obviously. I think once they go ahead next year, they got Tua as their starting quarterback next year, and they really have another off season to build their team up. This is going to be a tough team to face next year. I think it's good. The AFC East could be very interesting next year with the Bills, a revamped Dolphins, a better Jets team that finally is under good management. And when you got Bill Belichick as your coach and GM, Patriots are still going to be in contention. So this is going to be a division in a couple years that's going to be I think it could be one of the best divisions in the league. We'll see. They've been mismanaged divisions. It's a mismanaged division in the past, mismanaged teams. But I think that's changing for the better. As a fan of a team in the AFC East, I'm finally glad to see some sort of competition. Moving on to the NFC. Obviously, the biggest story is the NFC South: Saints versus the Bucks. Who will win the division? Everyone's high on the Bucks. A lot of people aren't high on the Bucks. Don't want to jump on the bandwagon yet. I'm telling you right now, I'm jumping on this bandwagon 100%. I think the Bucks will be Super Bowl champions. But I think they do it as a wild card team. Because I think the Saints still win the division. I think it takes some time for Tom Brady to get adjusted to the new team. They struggle in September, maybe a little in October. They start reeling off games come November, December. They make it to the wild card round, and then they start winning games left and right. But I think the Saints are still pretty much one of the best teams in the NFC. They're not really losing anyone. Drew Brees is still great. They've still got Michael Thomas, Alvin Kamara. Their offense is great. Their defense is great. Great roster. And they're still the best in the division. And with Tom Brady on the Bucs, I think Drew Brees is going to have something to prove. He's going to want to prove that he's the best quarterback in the division, that the Saints are the best team in the division, and they're going to go out and win the division. The Buccaneers, oh my God, what an offseason. Tom Brady, obviously. They have Chris Godwin. They get Gronk. They still have O.J. Howard. They draft Tristan Wirfs in the first round to get some protection. My God, this offense is going to be blazing. Defensively, they're not a bad defense. Look, last year, they gave up a lot of points, and people will knock them on that. But there's a big reason they gave up a lot of points. And that's because they constantly lost the field position battle. Jameis Winston turned the ball over 30 times. When you turn the ball over numerous times in a game on your own 15, your defense is going to give up points. There's no way around it. You can't knock the defense for giving up points when they don't have much space to work with to begin with. Tom Brady, much cleaner, more efficient, will not turn the ball over that much. And he's got weapons. This is going to be a great football team. I don't understand anyone who's like, oh, Brady's going to a different team. It's not going to work out. Tampa Bay's still Tampa Bay. It's not great. This is going to be a great football team, and they're my pick to win the Super Bowl. I think if there are two teams I literally don't care about at all, it's the Falcons and the Panthers. The Falcons, they get Todd Gurley, I think. I don't know how injuries will affect him. He's had trouble staying healthy over the past year and a half. He's been missing games in and out. They're in a tough division. Dan Quinn's job is on the line, so maybe they'll play hard for him. But this is a team that's, other than that one Matt Ryan MVP season, this is a team that's been good, not great, always overshadowed by the Saints. And I think you're going to see some of the same stuff this year. Panthers, I think they're changing their team a little bit. They got rid of Cam Newton. Luke Kuechly retiring was a big hit. Teddy Bridgewater is going to be their quarterback now. I love Teddy Bridgewater. I love myself some Teddy B. Played great with the Saints last year when Drew Brees missed a few games. He went undefeated in those games. But look, it's a new coach, Matt Rule. From what I've heard in Baylor, he's a good coach, but it's a tough division. I don't know if I see them really winning a whole lot of games. That's my take. NFC West. It's going to be a battle between the Seahawks and the 49ers. And I got the Seahawks winning the division this year. After the Brady-Belichick split, I think Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson are the best QB coach combo in the league. Russell Wilson is maybe throw Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes in there. Possibly Carson Wentz, Doug Peterson. You could throw those guys in there too. Tomlin, Roethlisberger. But Carroll and Wilson have been with each other their entire careers. Great football team. And he's a top 5 quarterback in this league. There's no way around it. Russell Wilson is elite. He is an elite quarterback. I think their offense only got a little better. They got Greg Olsen. They signed Philip Dorsett. They'll get some additional weapons there for Wilson, along with DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. Chris Carson's still good, so I don't see them struggling that much. And I think the 49ers have a better team, better roster. The one knock I have on the 49ers here, and the reason I think the Seahawks will win the division is I think the 49ers will have a little bit of a Super Bowl hangover. I think September they'll struggle a little bit. That was a tough loss. They had the lead over the Chiefs for most of the game. They're great. Still probably the best defense in the league. They They got a great running attack with Raheem Mostert. I think they're going to be good. I think the problem that I have with the 49ers is I don't know if I trust Jimmy Garoppolo yet. I don't know if I see him as a great quarterback. I think he was helped out by an incredible running game. He was helped out by a great defense. And he has one of the best tight ends in the league. This is there's 3 tight ends in the league I put in the elite above all else status. That's Gronk, who's coming back, obviously. Travis Kelce and George Kittle. Kittle's incredible. This kid's unbelievable. And I think he's going to be better than Travis Kelce. I think he's going to take over as the best tight end in the league very soon, possibly this year. But I think they're still going to be a good team. I think they'll really challenge for a Super Bowl spot with teams like the Seahawks, Saints, Tampa Bay. But I think the Super Bowl hangover could hurt them. I don't know if Garoppolo takes a step forward this year, it's lights out. This team's going to be unbelievable. One of the teams I have outside looking in is the Los Angeles Rams. They seem to just be getting worse and worse every year. Ever since they lost in the Super Bowl last year, they didn't look as good this year. They didn't make the playoffs. They seem to be cleaning house a little bit, losing a lot of their pieces on defense. They lost Brandon Cooks, Aqib Talib, Marcus Peters. They lost Gurley. Jared Goff is one of those quarterbacks that will play well if you give him help around him, and will struggle when you don't have help. They're not going to have as much help this year. They're going to struggle. I think they're still a solid team that can compete. I think in a tough division like the NFC West with the Seahawks and 49ers. I think they're a 7-8 win team at best, and they missed the playoffs. Cardinals, they round this division off. Kyler Murray is going to continue to develop as a young quarterback. I think he's going to be better this year. He showed a lot of positive signs last year. They got DeAndre Hopkins, which gives him a lot of help. Drafted Isaiah Simmons, boosts the defense a little bit. It's a better team than last year. They're going to compete more games. It's not going to be as one-sided. But again, extremely tough division. They're a year or two away from really competing. NFC North. The biggest story here is Jordan Love being drafted by the Packers. This could end up in a couple situations. Aaron Rodgers could not want to play for the Packers anymore. I could definitely see that happening. I could definitely see him wanting to go to a different team, getting paid a lot. But more likely than not, this is going to light a fire under Aaron Rodgers' ass. Because this is very similar to when the Packers drafted Aaron Rodgers when Brett Favre was a quarterback. But the Packers weren't the team they are now. They're coming off an NFC Championship appearance. And it seems like Aaron Rodgers always loses in those types of situations in the NFC Championship. They're one of the best teams, but not the best team in the NFC, like almost every year. But look, at the end of the day, Aaron Rodgers is still Aaron Rodgers. He is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Him and Patrick Mahomes are probably the most talented quarterbacks we've ever seen. So Aaron Rodgers is still going to be good. This Packers team is still going to be great. I think he's just going to go on a vengeance and try to prove everyone wrong. He's angry. He's pissed. So that's why I think the Packers win the division. That's honestly, for me, that's the only reason I think the Packers win the division. If it wasn't for that, if the Packers didn't draft Jordan Love, I would have picked the Vikings. Went to the NFC Championship last year. They're still a contender. I got the Vikings next. They lost Stephon Diggs. They drafted a wide receiver to replace him. They drafted Justin Jefferson in the first round. I think Thielen coming back healthy, not missing a whole lot of games will help them a lot. Potentially put them over the line to win the division and win more games. I think they made the playoffs last year. They beat the Saints. I think they could have won more than 10 games if they had Thielen. the guy's a game changer, and he'll be tremendous help for Kirk Cousins. I think they'll definitely contend for the division title. They got a great roster. Mike Zimmer drafts well. There's nothing really wrong about this team. I just don't. I think Kirk Cousins has to really bring it on in those primetime games. I think he showed what he can do in the Saints game in the wild card round last year. He's got to do it more consistently. There were so many times last year where the Vikings would win most of their games, but the games that they lost would be primetime games against big market teams that everyone would be watching, and Kirk Cousins would fold. So I think Kirk Cousins is a good quarterback. I think he has the potential to be great, and he's just got to show it in the times that matter most. And then there's the Lions and the Bears. I think the Lions are a little better this year. I think a healthy Matthew Stafford is going to have a great season. I think Stafford is one of those guys that he's just been dealt a bad hand. Getting drafted by the Lions. Probably the saddest franchise in the NFL at this point. I mean, the Browns are looking decent now. The Lions have literally gone nowhere ever. Matt Patricia, I don't really trust him as a head coach. Bad management historically. They got a decent team. They got some upgrades on defense. They got Jamie Collins, Duron Harmon from New England. I think Stafford will have a great season. I could see them potentially winning like 8 games, like being a 500 team. But they're the Detroit Lions. They're not gonna make any. They're not gonna win the division. They're not gonna be meaningful come December. So they're an afterthought to me. The Bears are one of those teams. You look at their defense, you think they're going to be a great team. Last year, I thought they were going to be great. My take, another big take I have this year is that the Bears are going to be absolutely horrendous this year. I think the Chicago Bears absolutely plummet. I see them as like a 3-4 win team this year. I don't think they're going to be good. Defense is good. I think the offense is going to suck. I think this offense is going to be absolute dog shit. Quarterback issues. Nick Foles might seem like a big upgrade to Mitch Trubisky. I don't really see it. Look, Nick Foles was great in the Philadelphia Eagles system. He plays on the Eagles. He's great. I believe he had a 7-touchdown game back in the day for the Eagles. He was their starting quarterback for a while. Then he goes to the Chiefs. He goes to the Rams. Can't do anything. Comes back to the Eagles. Backs up Carson Wentz. Wins the Super Bowl. Becomes Super Bowl MVP. Goes to the Jaguars. Gets injured. Comes back. Sucks. It's the story of Nick Foles. I don't think he's going to be that much better than Mitch Trubisky. I don't really think they have too many guys to throw the ball to either. I just think their offense is going to be so bad that their defense isn't going to even matter. So, again, they got Robert Quinn. That's going to help. But come on. I think the Bears are going to be terrible this year. Finally, we got the NFC East. It's really between the Eagles and the Cowboys. Everybody on the Cowboys bandwagon ever since this draft and free agency has happened. Everyone jumping on the Cowboys bandwagon. And let me tell you one thing. Everyone seems to jump on the Cowboys bandwagon every year. But it's not going to change the fact that the Philadelphia Eagles are going to win the division. The Philadelphia Eagles clearly have the best roster. They boosted their defense, added Javon Hargrave. They got Darius Slay from the Lions, who said that organization's terrible. Hates Matt Patricia, by the way. They drafted Jalen Reagor, wide receiver, to give Carson Wentz some help. They lost a couple receivers. They lost Nelson Aguilar, some other guys. They got a great roster in a slightly weaker division with the Giants and the Redskins. Give yourself 4 easy wins right there. I think they'll have their way with the Cowboys too. You know, that could go both ways. The big question with the Eagles for me is, can Carson Wentz stay healthy? So clearly Carson Wentz has a tough time staying healthy. He was able to stay healthy last year, played all 16 games in the regular season, but got hurt, got a concussion in the wild card game. Then Josh McCown had to come in. When you have a career backup as your guy playing in the wild card game, it's not going to work out. I do think a healthy Carson Wentz could have won that Seahawks game. But this is something that the Eagles have to think about. Granted, they did draft Jalen Hurts, which helps them a lot. If Carson Wentz, God forbid, gets hurt, Hurts can come in and he could probably be pretty good. He could also offer some interesting offensive packages. We'll see what Doug Peterson does. But it could definitely be very interesting to see what happens. I think they just have a good roster, and I think the division is slightly easier. They don't have to play that many tough teams. I believe the NFC East has to play the AFC North and the NFC West. NFC West is going to be tough, but I think their division is weak enough that they'll have a pretty easy time winning. Cowboys obviously will be in the running to win that division. I just don't really trust them. I thought they had a pretty good draft. The roster looks pretty solid. I think CeeDee Lamb was a little bit of a flashy pick. I think it was the classic Jerry Jones type of Cowboys pick where you just get the big receiver out of Oklahoma, big name. I think they could have gone with an offensive lineman or a defensive player. I think the offensive line kind of regressed last year from the high level that it was at previously. I think Dak Prescott's contract negotiations are getting really messy. I know they got Andy Dalton as sort of an insurance package in case of something bad happening with Dak. The contract, I heard, by the way, is supposed to make him the highest paid player in the NFL. So if that's the case, I cannot believe a scenario where Dak would not accept that deal. It's mind-boggling to me that he wouldn't. So clearly something else is going on, because if there's a deal that's going to make Dak the highest paid player in the NFL, he has to take it, because he is not even close to the best player in the NFL. So it's absurd that there's talks of this happening. So take the money, Dak. You're not worth that money, so just take the money. But I just think that they won't win the division solely based off the fact that the Cowboys will always screw it up. As a non-Cowboys fan, that's one of the things you look forward to most in the season, when the Cowboys just throw it all away after showing so much promise and having so many good players. They just throw it all away, and it's not watching the Cowboys lose that gives me and so many others satisfaction. It's watching Cowboys fans be sad and finally shut up. They're always yapping and talking, bap. Like, shut up. Your team hasn't made the playoffs in 20 years, and you keep talking. It's not going to happen this year, just like it wasn't going to happen last year. Not in playoffs, sorry. Your team hasn't won the Super Bowl. My mistake. It's not going to happen. It didn't happen last year. It didn't happen the year before. It's not going to happen this year. They'll find a way to screw it up. They won't win the division. I actually have them missing the playoffs. Giants and Redskins. It's young coach, new coach, young quarterback. You know, both teams pretty much in the same situation there with a new head coach, second-year quarterback. I think the Giants are a little bit better off because Daniel Jones looks good. I think he looks good. I think he'll be better this year. He showed some signs last year of promise. I think they boosted their offensive line a little bit by drafting Andrew Thomas in the first round. I don't think he was the best tackle in the draft. I think Jedrick Wills, Mekhi Becton, and Tristan Wirfs were a lot better. But either way, I think that helps protect Danny Dimes a little bit more and helps open up open up Saquon's game even more. I think the run game gets better. Open up Saquon Barkley. We haven't seen Saquon's potential yet. I think this season we could see a little bit more of it. Defense got a little better. They signed James Bradbury and Blake Martinez. I think they're a little better. Definitely not ready to contend with the Cowboys and Eagles yet. Redskins, same situation. Ron Rivera definitely is a significant upgrade to Jay Gruden. They drafted Chase Young, who's a generational talent, who definitely will be a guy to build around in that defense. But at the end of the day, I think their quarterback situation's a little worse than the Giants. Dwayne Haskins did not look good last year. I don't know if he's the answer. He could be a bust. I think he's a bust. I think he's going to be a bust. He looked bad last year. I think there's problems with the quarterback. We don't know what's happening with Alex Smith. He's recovering. That injury was terrible. So, I mean, I have all the hope in the world for him. I hope he's doing well, but that's a tough thing to come back from. So that's basically my breakdown of all the divisions in the NFL. Looking forward to the 2020 season. To sum it up for the playoff seeds, in the AFC, I got the Chiefs at the 1 seed, the Ravens at the 2 seed. I think that the Ravens dip a little bit under the Chiefs just because I think defenses are going to start figuring out Lamar Jackson. And then 3 seed Colts, 4 seed Bills. I think the Bills just have a little bit of a tougher schedule than the Colts. But I think they're a possible Super Bowl appearance team. 5 seed, I've got the Titans. 6 seed Steelers. 7 seed Broncos. I was throwing the Jets in there, just, a little bias, obviously. But I'm leaving them out, unfortunately. We missed the playoffs again for like the 10th year in a row. It's fine. I'm used to it. Let's move on. NFC, number 1 seed, I've got the Saints. Number 2 seed, Seahawks. Number 3 seed, I've got the Packers. 4 seed, Eagles. 5 seed, Buccaneers. 5 seed, 49ers. 6 seed, Buccaneers. 7 seed, Vikings. I think the 49ers and Buccaneers, you can kind of switch around. There's just so much talent in the NFC. It's going to be really interesting to see. It's fun to add a 7th playoff team. Also, it adds a lot of fun elements. Basically, I just want to finish off this podcast with a fun thing I like to do called the Power Rankings. Basically, I'll give you the top 10, just whatever in sports. There's really no specifics to how this Power Rankings work. I just kind of put them together based on how I feel. But let's get it going. Number 10, I got the New York Knicks, who just can't seem to win. They can't win now. They suck now. They're absolute trash. And they couldn't get it done in the 90s either. Even when MJ was gone, even when MJ played baseball for 2 years, they still couldn't get it done. I mean, Patrick Ewing is at his home somewhere watching this MJ documentary, just feeling like absolute shit. And I'm so sorry that you couldn't do it. But, I mean, you get past the Bulls hurdle in 94, and then you lose to the Rockets. Come on. That's on you, Patrick. That's on you. I don't feel bad for you at all. I mean, you're the Knicks. You guys lose. Number 9. I just want to preface this by saying I just graduated from Indiana University, so I'm a big Hoosier basketball guy. So for all the Indiana basketball fans out there, number 9 is the superstar, Devontae Green. Just give him the ball, man. Just give him the goddamn ball, and he'll just shoot lights out. Or he won't, or he'll just miss every single shot. But it's always fun to see what happens with Devontae. You never know. It's always like you go into a game, and you're like, how's Devontae going to play? Nobody has a clue. He could either shoot lights out, score like 26 points, or miss every single shot he takes and have 7 turnovers. It's absurd. But it's definitely fun to watch sometimes. Number 8, Bills Mafia. This is going to be a huge fan base next year. As a Jets fan, if the NFL does have games at home stadiums, it's going to be really interesting to see how it plays out. Because we play the Bills in Buffalo week 1, and I'm not looking forward to that. We're going to lose. Definitely going to lose. Bills Mafia. Going to be one of the best fan bases next year. Number 7, Big Dick Nick Foles. we're going to look 30 years down the road and just still be amazed at the fact that Nick Foles is a Super Bowl MVP. This guy's a backup quarterback. Not only won the Super Bowl, but played lights out in the Super Bowl. Like, if Rex Grossman won the Super Bowl against the Colts, it would have been like, okay, his defense carried him. You know, kind of like the Broncos' defense carried Peyton Manning. Nice. But Nick Foles played lights out in that Super Bowl. But he's never played well anywhere else. He played for the Eagles, played great. Played for the Chiefs and like the Rams, I think. Played horrible. Then came back to the Eagles, played great. Was on the Jaguars last year, got injured. Came back, sucked. I don't think he's going to be great on the Bears. I think the Bears are going to be bad. But there's one situation where the Bears aren't bad. And in this situation, Mitch Trubisky starts off the season, plays 8 or 9 games, maybe wins like 4 games, then gets hurt. Then Nick Foles has to come in, save the season. The Bears win the Super Bowl. I think it's either they suck or that one situation happens and the Bears win the Super Bowl. But Trubisky can't be benched. He has to get hurt in order for this to happen. Trust me. This is the way it goes. Number 6, gambling. Gambling was really glorified by Michael Jordan in this documentary. He was just throwing money. It was like chump change for him. Like, he owed like $1.2 million at some point. And that's why the media came in and started talking about how his gambling had something to do with his father's death and all that bullshit. But you know, it really makes you want to gamble watching Jordan do it. He's a natural, I guess. Number 5, Steve Kerr. This guy became a man in this documentary. We saw his progression from a little boy, a little baby-faced boy, to a real man. He got punched in the face by Michael Jordan, and then subsequently won 3 championships with the Bulls, went to 5 straight championships, 5 straight NBA Finals, coaching the Warriors, won 3 championships there. So, Steve Kerr, a real success story of how a boy became a man. Just a real coming-of-age story. Number 4, I got Dr. Anthony Fauci, the leading coronavirus expert, who was also a basketball star of his own right back in 1958 when he played for Regis High School. And that team won about 2 or 3 games, but Fauci was one of the big reasons they won 2 or 3 games. He was the star player on that team. I think there's also reports that he beat an ex-NBA player's team. I'm not sure who it was, but that's pretty cool. He's also pretty much the biggest celebrity in the world right now. It's kind of nuts. You know, every day in the news you hear something about Dr. Fauci. He's also the only one who gives me any reason of hope or real information. The only person I really trust on this about this all the news that comes out about the virus. So thank you, Dr. Fauci, for all your hard work, and to all the people on the front lines who are risking their lives every single day. Number 3, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tampa Brady is going to win the Super Bowl. That's my pick. They're going to win the Super Bowl. I am so far deep onto the Buccaneers bandwagon. I'm jumping on the train. Yeah, I think they're going to be great. That's about it. I think Tom Brady is going to finally prove that he's better than Bill Belichick. That it was more him than Bill Belichick. And I think it's going to be awesome. As a Jets fan, I've always hated the Patriots, but like I actually could see myself rooting for the Bucs next year. So that's pretty cool. So at number 2, I put myself, Sai Balabaj Patruni, a.k.a. the Beard 2.0. I feel like everyone hates that nickname already, but I can't help it. I think it's genius. I put myself at number 2 because I'm the rebounding champion. A typical stat line for me would be about 4 points, 1 assist, 0 blocks or steals, and then 25 rebounds. Granted, some of those rebounds will be offensive boards off of my own misses, Like, my shooting percentage is going to be like 10% max. But I'd also say I'm like a modern day Dennis Rodman. So, you know, you win some, you lose some. Number 1, highly anticipated here. Number 1 is LaBradford Smith. This guy's the MJ conqueror. This guy put up 37 points on MJ. Like, that is incredible. If I had accomplished nothing in my entire life, but my only accomplishment was putting 37 on MJ, that is a life well lived. Like, this guy's the real GOAT. This guy's the real MVP. So that's my top 10. I wanted to give you guys a couple outside of my top 10. This is like my favorite part of the show. Number 172, I have Kim Jong-un, who, terrible guy, terrible world leader. North Korea is horrible country. But the guy's a big basketball fan, and he's good friends with Dennis Rodman. And if you haven't read about this, the North Korean basketball league rules are so whack. So crazy. Like, I think there's like a rule, if you score within the last two seconds, that's like an 8-point shot. Absolutely nuts. And then to end the show, big drum roll for number 173. It's J.R. Smith. Thank you so much for tuning in to our first edition of Top of the Key. I'm your host, Sai Balabhadrapachurni, the Beard 2.0. Thank you very much. Please, if you like what you saw, don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. Leave a nice comment if you want to. If you didn't like what you saw, please leave me as much hate mail as you want. I would love to read it. One of the reasons why I started doing this in the first place was to be able to read everything that people hate about me. So, thank you so much, and tune in next time to Top of the Key.